is not that huge, as much as we accept that the poaching is becoming too rampant. But the 1,000 difference could be explained by many factors, including the variation in the scientific methods, because it's not 100% perfect.
Accurate, okay. But were you about to explain a comparison in terms of elephant population and with other countries? How are we doing?
Maybe I just needed to talk about numbers, especially the poaching.
Yes.
Our country, we have fared so well compared to the others. It's only that technology has improved so much that wherever an elephant dies, even in the bush, there is Facebook nowadays, and someone will tweet something from wherever this happens, and so the whole world gets to know that we are losing our elephants. However, we have not done so badly on numbers.
Okay.
Last year for poaching alone, we lost a total of 302 elephants. The previous year we had lost 384. We have tentatively brought the numbers down. But that is not the case with other countries, which I would leave maybe to Dr. Njogu to give us comparative
statistics. Yes.
In fact, some countries have lost completely all their elephants. in West Africa, for instance, Senegal, there is a time the whole population, the only population they had, was cleared. In West Africa today, there are countries without an elephant, where elephants used to be. So basically for us, and I think our government and KWS for this matter, has really addressed. We have been very vocal at the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. In every meeting, we're pushing actually for no sale on ivory and other products, including the rhino horns and so on.
Yes.
And we are in the task force also recommended, for instance, by the same CITES. Like currently in October last year, we had the task force to enforce the sales and illegal trade in rhinoceros horn.
Yeah.
So we participate in this process at the international levels.
Yeah. How is the public performing in terms of protecting the endangered species? Because a lot of plants out there are categorized as endangered or protected under international conventions. You should not cut them. In fact, where they grow, you have to be licensed to grow them and things like that. Is the public sufficiently sensitized about the protection or wildlife conservation? Wildlife conservation.
We do a lot of awareness creation. And the setting up of conservancies is one thing that has really contributed positively towards conservation, because the local people, the owners of these conservancies, are able to benefit.
Meaning that we know conservancies controlled by Muzungus. I don't know, conservancies like Masai Mara. Do you have local conservancies?
We have quite a good number.
Yes.
Actually, today they are ranging to over 50. Of course, some big ranchers own. Conservancies are areas set aside. Often those big ranches, but they are not only ranches, including private land. And then you manage it for purposes of ecotourism. And it brings in money for the owner, whether it's an individual or a group or local communities. Again, conservancies are enhancing and expanding the conservation area so that it is not only the protected area, because now conservancies become part of the corridor, become part of the conservancy, and that way communities would know. So to sensitize the people, again, we have a whole department on education and awareness. We have stakeholders supporting, like the wildlife clubs of Kenya. And today all these groups are participating in the procession that we are having. It will be starting in a short while from Uhuru Garden to KWS. It will be flagged off by our director, and later the CS will be officiating the activity, the celebration at the KWS. All this is about awareness creation.
Somebody is asking a question here. You know, as we celebrate the Wildlife Day, somebody would like to know, how do you reward, or do you have rewards for people who preserve a wild animal, like a giraffe? What are the incentives for people to actually engage in conservation?
We may not be having, I don't know whether I got the question correct, but I would wish to know from him under which circumstances he would be taking care of a giraffe. Because
the example is the late Mutula Kilonzo. He had the wildlife in his farm and he used to feed them cattle.
He had a
ranch, and he used to throw the cattle. How do you encourage people to be like him?
For the case you have given, the late had actually all the necessary licenses for him to enable him do that.
Yes.
And of course, you cannot get licenses to keep wildlife and then sit there expecting for rewards. So the reward we give is that we give them support, we work with them, yes. We offer the necessary expertise to ensure that the wildlife under their care are given the necessary care. When it comes to veterinary care, that one we do it at government cost, that is at KWS cost, yes. Even if the wildlife is within your land. So you don't incur cost when you invite us to come and treat your lion, yes. That is within your conservancy.
But people are not allowed to keep a lion.
No,
I'm actually inviting you to explain how you can own one of those animals.
You cannot be allowed to keep a lion as a pet. Yes. But if it is keeping a lion within a bigger context of a conservancy, yes. A conservancy has everything. Take Lumo, for example, is a community conservancy in Taita. Yes. All species of animals to be found in Southwest National Park are also found there.
Who would own a conservancy? See, that's the question. What I'm trying to figure out is this.
Exactly.
People in this country hear about elephants, about lions. If somebody comes from perhaps Turkana, Lodwa, he has never seen an elephant or a lion, just imaginary. Or somebody from Homa Bay maybe has never seen a cheetah or something. Would it be in the interest of KWS and the country generally in terms of advancing this wildlife conservation to then set up conservancies in those areas or encourage people to set up conservancies? Exactly. So that we diversify and devolve the wildlife.
For KWS, being government, the only thing that we can set up is national parks and national reserves. But because there is no land, there is no more land that the government can just grab and set aside as conservancies. We are now engaging the county governments because there is the former trust lands. Yes. Of course, the trust lands are within the counties. Yeah. They can set aside large tracts of land to start their own conservancies so that they can also reap benefits from tourism. That, of course, is related to wildlife conservation. And for communities that have large tracts of land, some have large community ranches, group ranches, they can come together, engage KWS, we help them establish, we help them build their capacity to be able to manage this resource and help them to start.
It looks good, but is that a proactive project going on? That's what I would like to understand. Is there anything being done in that direction?
It is proactive, and for almost all the conservancies that we have helped to start, we have trained their game scouts. Actually, we call them community rangers now, and we have trained them at the Kenya Wildlife Service training at Manyani. So they have gotten the necessary training that can help them take care of wildlife and of course establish the necessary linkage between them and Kenya Wildlife Service. Remember, the challenges they will face are the same challenges we face in national parks. Yes. And some of these challenges relate to poaching, and they need to know exactly what do they do when poachers visit their area. Yes. And that linkage is established through the type of training that we offer the game scouts.
But you are looking at it from institutional approach, counties or communities. Supposing David Makali wants to set up, I want to adopt a lion. Or an elephant.
Maybe
can there be a campaign?
There is something.
Because you want people to own this wildlife.
There is something I didn't say.
Wouldn't people be encouraged to adopt or start little things like those?
Other than conservancies, yes. There is what we call game. You can keep game. You can be allowed to keep game. That particular species. Of course, the lion is not one of them. You appear to be interested in the lion for security purposes, maybe. However, you are allowed to keep other wildlife if you have sufficient ground to keep them. You will apply for the license. We have a whole department that deals with matters of licensing. You will write your proposal. They will evaluate it. They will visit your facility. They will offer the necessary advice and help you start off. So you can keep several species, guinea fowls. Some people even keep crocodiles. They can also offer some security, and several other species.
Yeah. What about trees? Are there endangered trees? I mean, I know that some trees which people are arrested all the time.
Actually, there is prunus, there is the African sandalwood, And
the African
this convention,
yes,
CITES,
yes,
the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, is about flora and fauna.
Yes.
So there are plants that are also protected under that, like now the prunas and the African sandalwood. But of course, for the trees, it's easy. They are not mobile.
But if you go to this forest here, Gong forest, with like that prunas, it's all the skin has, the bark has been cut by people who want to train it.
There are people who remove it.
Yes.
But of course, it's another form of poaching.
It's poached.
We would call it poached. And that is also a risk because, again, it clears the habitat for the wild animals. But it is not too much like we would think about wildlife. Of course, habitat destruction is a key thing that is making us lose our wildlife.
Of course, if you engage in debarking prunas, which had been given some form of protection at some point, and if the authorities find you with the products of prunas, you will still be arrested. It's only that, of course, people do that because they know the importance of these prunas.
No. I've seen people in this town selling prunas back in powder form or in liquid form. Where do they say it? Because you ask them, which forest they don't have trees they've planted, but they are selling them. You go to the market, you buy prunas, people who are, because of cancer, prostate. And
where does
it come from?
I think that one is an aspect we would rather leave to the people who deal with matters of trees. Of course, there is an organization, Kenya Forestry Service. Yes. They know what they do with that group. There is some form of licensing that they engage in, which I may not be very clear. However, I am sure they also have to follow particular procedures which are set out in the Forest Act.
Today is very crucial. I mean, you have this event. Maybe just talk about that a little. What is happening at KWS? You say the director is flagging off a campaign, a publicity campaign. But then second, people are complaining that access to the parks is very expensive. For example, if you want to get into a park in Nairobi, it's 500 shillings. Somebody getting into a park in Nakuru is 1,000 shillings. That is not even to mention the car that you have to pay for. Is this affordable?
Let me talk about, first of all, about the events. Basically, we had lined up several activities from Friday up to today. Today is the climax. On Friday, we had a road show. We had a low loader, a whole truck. We put our people there and stabbed animals just to inform the people. On Saturday, we had the same road show repeated, and we had the International Youth Fellowship. About 200 young men from the universities came under that arrangement and did cleanups. We also talked to them, educated them through videos, and they also contributed to the discussion. Right. And then today, it is the procession and the various speeches. We have exhibitors who are showing parts of their contributions towards conservation. I think Paul can address the issue.